when I was in my 30s and 40s, I'm like, come on, depression, just get out of the dumps,
Yeah.
let's go running, and it's not that. It is not that.
Hi, and welcome back to Mind Wide Open, my mental health focused interview series. Today, I am talking to Duff McKagan, who is best known for being the bassist of the band Guns N' Roses. He is also an author, journalist, advocate, and activist, and someone who's a really strong example of speaking openly about his struggles with addiction and mental health. I got so much out of doing this interview, and I hope that you guys do as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hi, Duff.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. You guys see lilies lighting? Or is that that's just youth, right? Is that just youth?
This is my glow. It's great to see you.
You too.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I actually just woke up maybe like 1 hour ago.
So you're fresh. I love it.
I'm coffeeed up.
Perfect. So I'd love to start just by talking about our similar experiences growing up in Seattle. You grew up in a big family with lots of siblings, and you shared with me that you had your first panic attack as a teenager. Can you recount that experience of your first panic attack?
I can recount that. Yeah, I grew up in Seattle, last of 8 kids.
Wow.
And at 16, I was still living at my mom's. Mm-hmm. I went to take a shower before going to school, and just like any other day, but suddenly the floor dropped like 3 feet. Mm-hmm. And I thought something happened to the house. Yeah. And suddenly I couldn't breathe, and I was sweating in the shower. Mm-hmm. And I remember just pushing the shower door open, crawling out on the floor, putting a towel on, and yelling for my mom. She took me to the ER up at Group Health, the hospital here, and took me to the emergency room. They realized nothing was wrong. I think they did an EKG and whatever.
Yeah.
And then they sent me over to this a therapist's office, and he kind of took out a chalkboard and drew a schematic of what was happening. He said, it's a panic attack. They gave me Valium. It ran in my family. Some of my brothers and sisters had this, but my brothers are so much older. It's just not cool. It wasn't cool to talk about. It wasn't, in my case, it wasn't manly to talk about. You dealt with it. So a friend of mine, when I was 18, had read an article or a book where she told me that, she informed me that, millions of people have these things that you have. And that was the first time I knew anyone else had panic attacks.
Wow.
So that kind of gave me a bit of hope. I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
I discovered what happens with all of us as human beings. You discover ways to cope. And I found that alcohol was a great coping mechanism for me. So I spent the next 13 years with my coping mechanism of a lot of alcohol and drugs.
So as we know, addiction and mental health are intrinsically intertwined, and you can't really talk about one without talking about the other. And my dad talked about publicly how he struggled with addiction as a form of self-medication for mental health issues. Could you speak a little bit more to your experience with self-medicating for mental health issues?
Yeah, what happens is you get into this, because with alcohol, there's so much sugar in alcohol, and with a guy like myself, and I think with your dad as well, you can't just do a little, because a little doesn't work after a while. So you got to do more to get that same feeling. And so in my case, I got up to 2 half gallons of vodka a day, a full gallon of vodka a day.
Wow.
And there's so much sugar in that.
Yeah.
And then I was doing, cocaine so that I could drink longer. Cocaine's not good for panic attacks.
I can't even imagine.
It's the opposite of good for panic attacks.
Yeah.
So I would take pills as well to bring me down. Too much cocaine, the alcohol's not working. So mix alcohol, pills, cocaine, and then still function in your band. And I could do all that stuff and function and play and until I couldn't. At about 28 and 29, it started to come off. My hair started to fall out, like break off. I started to get my body was starting to show it, like huge boils, and my feet would crack when I'd walk. Like the bottom of my feet would crack.
Wow.
My body was drying out. At 30, I just moved back to Seattle, got the house in Seattle, kind of my dream scenario of I had moved to LA to be in the band, and then was able to buy this house that I'm still in, the house I'm in right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had my pancreas burst from drinking too much in this house.
Wow.
My friend took me out to Northwest. They said, how much does he drink? What else does he do? He told them everything. So they had to get me off alcohol with Librium in my other arm. So I'm not having a panic attack. I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
I'm on Librium, which is like massive doses of Valium.
Gotcha.
I'm on morphine for the pain.
Yeah.
And they're weaning me off alcohol. And I was in there for about 14 days.
Wow.
And so I was sober.
Yeah.
When I got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And they had a rehab for me to go to. And I'd seen some things in the hospital. My mom coming in, she had Parkinson's. She was in a wheelchair. I'm the last of 8 kids. I should be taking care of her, not the other way around.
Yeah.
That really struck me. But here I was out of the hospital. How am I going to deal with panic attacks now without alcohol?
And were you off any like anti-anxiety or antidepressants at that time as well?
I never took antidepressants.
You never did? Okay.
Yeah, so there began that journey of a doctor. So the problem was, how am I going to deal with panic attacks? So they tried Paxil on me, which wasn't good for me. Just very sluggish. I found, in my case, I had to go back to LA. Even getting on a plane, like this metal tube.
Yeah.
I was at a point I couldn't take elevators, anything that you're stuck inside of.
Yeah.
Because that would trigger my panic attacks for whatever reason. I believe it was fate that took me to this dojo that I'm still that I still practice. It's a martial art called Yukido-kan. It looks like kickboxing, but there's a spiritual side of it, meditation side.
Beautiful.
That I saw in the sensei when I first went into the dojo. I saw it in his eyes, the calm, and I just basically followed him around for the next couple of years, doing what he told me to do.
Amazing.
And so I found a place in meditation where I could go to, a safe place that I could deal with panic attacks, and it got my place of strength got stronger than my panic attacks.
Sure.
But even, I still had Xanax in my backpack, just in case. And just knowing I had that was always a great backup. So I was 30 when my pancreas burst. I had 10 and a half years of sobriety. I had these pills. I was in Europe with Velvet Revolver. I wasn't having a panic attack. I was under a lot of stress. So I took one of the pills for stress. And so with this kind of combination of alcoholism and having these pills, what people got to be careful of, I'm here to tell you, is don't start taking those pills for another reason, because especially if you have alcoholism in your past, because I suddenly awoke myself to, this is how I take care of stress. And I was up to 20 of those pills a day within 5 days.
Wow.
Enough to kill anybody else.
Yeah.
But, because you have this alcoholism, progressive, I picked up where I would have been if I kept drinking or kept using.
And I've never heard that term used to describe addiction. What does progressive mean in that context?
Like I moved from a pint of vodka to a fifth of vodka to a half gallon of vodka to 2 half gallons of vodka at the end. So just because I stopped doesn't mean my body didn't still keep going.
Oh,
it went up to a bottle, a gallon and a half of vodka without me knowing it. It went up to. So when I picked up these pills again, going from 1 pill on a Wednesday to 20 by the following Monday, my body was like, I need a lot more than 1. Yeah. And so I discovered what progressive disease meant in that case.
Quickly.
And I had to get off those things. And, it was a lot of shame involved in that, like telling my wife. I had 2 little girls at the time, coming home and kicking these pills. And it was fucking awful. And then panic attacks started coming in again after I got off these pills, because I think a lot of things can trigger my panic attacks, and I figured out one of them was shame, disappointment in myself. Yeah. I'd done martial arts. I was a black belt in this martial art. People come to me for help, and I'm the one that's on his knees. And I think for me in my life, I believe I've gone through certain things just to help others, and I think that was one of them.
What was that process like, telling Susan?
It wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So I was in Europe. I came back here to this house in Seattle. It's 85 degrees out in Seattle. And you know what that feels like. It feels like 95 anywhere.
Yeah. It's like the desert.
Yeah. And they were out in the backyard playing. I'm trying to kick this stuff called turkey. I'm up in my bedroom with 2 coats on, sick as a dog, watching them play, and I should be playing with them. I just got back from Europe, and I said I was sick, I was tired, blah, 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 just lying, know. And she came back up inside to the bedroom, and I was throwing up in the toilet, and she goes, "What is wrong?" And I had to tell her. Yeah. I said, I'm kicking drugs, and she looked at me like I was a Martian. She goes, "What do you mean?" Yeah. And I said, I told her everything, and I called a friend. He came and picked me up and took me to an NA meeting, and I'm wearing 2 coats. It's 85 out. In the meeting, it's like 105 because there's no AC in this meeting. And some friend asked, "What's your friend coming off of?" Like I wasn't even there. Yeah. He's coming off of Xanax. How much? Like 20 milligrams a day. How's he coming off of this? Well, he's cold turkey. And the guy said he can't do that. He can have a seizure. Wow. So then I have that. So I had to go. That's
all you need here to have a panic attack. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I went to a doctor. At that point, we went to a doctor, and we did it right. And but yeah, that shame held for a while. I still probably have pieces of it in me still. And my wife has been nothing more than supportive and gracious about the whole thing. She understands, like, this happens to you guys. Flash forward a few years, my wife and I travel so much in my life. And as the girls got older, Susan could come with me and for longer periods of time, and the girls would come out. And we were back in Seattle, Susan and I. Everything's fine in my life. We went to the movies, a movie about Margaret Thatcher, nothing gnarly. And I was 50 years old, and we're sitting in the seats watching the movie, and again, the chair dropped 3 feet. I thought there was an earthquake. Yeah. So I went to go, I braced myself, and I went to go look up at Susan, and she was right next to me. I didn't drop 3 feet. And I had, this time, instead of a panic attack, it was this extremely morose downward spiral. Wow. And that's when I realized that they said panic attacks are a symptom of depression. I was going into a full spiral depression. And it happened like that, Lily.
In an instant, yeah.
In an instant. and she got me out of the theater.
Yeah.
I still never finished that movie. She got me to the hospital. I'm sure people are watching this, and I'm not sure what your experiences are, Lily, with that side of panic. If you haven't got it, I hope you never do. But it is dealable. So I had I call that first one a depression attack because they gave me something that night that really calmed me down. I didn't go on Wellbutrin or anything to kind of get me back up because I didn't want to have a panic attack.
Yeah.
And so I got to deal with that, like kind of drug free. So I went back to my martial art. That one came and it went. It went in about 36 hours. But suddenly, again, your mind, your being is awoken to what's capable, what can happen to you.
Sure.
And
I think it's so important to share that you have that's something you've experienced throughout your life from the age of 16 to in your 50s, because I think there can be this misconception that anxiety and depression and other mental health struggles are things that need to be like overcome and eradicated. Whereas the reality of it is you need to learn how to, they never disappear, but you learn tools to integrate it into your daily life and make it so that you can handle it as they come instead of it, completely derailing you.
When was you deal with panic attacks?
Yeah.
And so how old were you?
My first one, I have a similar story as you in the shower at 16. Like my first panic attack, I was 12 at an Indian restaurant in West Seattle. Nothing bad was happening. Like I had run anxious my whole life, but had never had, there's a difference between anxiety attack and panic attack. And sitting there like curry's about to come. I remember the waiter was standing there looking at me, and then all of a sudden just had this like feeling of kind of that hot flash, just this feeling in my head. And I turned and looked at the waiter and went, I need to go to the hospital. And he's looking at me like, why are you telling me? It's just that moment. And like you said, it happens in an instant. The bottom drops out and I was like, something's happening to me, and immediately went like, I might have a brain tumor or something's wrong with my heart. And the same experience, my mom took me to the hospital, got an EKG, and went through that whole process. And then, had the explanation of like, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. You don't, as much as made the doctor confirm for me, I didn't have a brain tumor. There was nothing wrong with my heart.
Yeah. That you brought up something like you run anxious and there is a difference between like a panic attack. Like I know people have said, oh yeah, I get those all the time. I'm anxious.
Yeah.
And
different.
It's a very different thing. I think if you run anxious, probably the good news is you can find some meditation. I know that definitely works for me for any time. Because I can go, if I needed to, I could go to my my safe place. If I was getting anxious in this conversation, I could just turn for 10 seconds and be okay.
Yeah.
So there's ways to deal with that. But panic attacks, it is our fight or flight gets stuck on. Yeah. So that happened at 50, that first depression attack, we call it. Guns N' Roses, my band, we get back together. And so the relationships are wonderful. We're communicating as grown men, and it's like, this is perfect. I'm sober. I get to experience this thing again as a grown man, and really like appreciate what's going on. Appreciate how good Axl is. Appreciate how good Slash is. How the rest of the good musicians they all are. Really have this like warmth for how many people are coming to see the band
and be present for it. Yeah,
and present, totally present. And so we do the stadium tour of the U.S. and it was great. My point to this, saying all this, is everything was going wonderful. So we my body was pretty wasted. Yeah. So we had a masseuse come over to the house. And so a woman who we know, and I lay down, face down, my head's in the cradle, and suddenly that sliding down into the ground thing happens.
Yeah.
Again, nothing's going wrong in my life.
Yeah.
Relationship with my wife is great. Kids are now, they're getting ready for college, all this stuff. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
I grab for the masseuse. I grab her arms. She's like, "Do you want me to stop there?" And I said, "No." And I'm crying, you know, and I'm not ashamed to say it, you know, because I think the stigma of men having to be tough it out, you know,
totally
is it's just such such an old school thought process. So I'm in the massage chair. I slide down. This one is different. It's much more severe than that one I had in the movie theater. I got to a therapist. The therapist took one look at me and said, "You have to go to a psychiatrist right now." So they found me a psychiatrist that deals with people in sobriety as well, which is great. My fight or flight I didn't have panic attacks or anything out on the road, so I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Maybe because I can deal with them so well now. It had been stuck on, and when it gets stuck on, it'll drive you into depression. And
wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So she took out like a plastic brain, and which I love. I love like show me.
Yes.
Know?
Yeah.
And she goes, just got stuck on. It does this, and it got stuck. I had to go to South America in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really function. And what I do is just I get in my gym. And that's how I deal. And even if I don't feel like it, I'll get on the elliptical and go hard. And I'll do 100 push-ups, and I'll get out and run. And I wrote about this in one of the books that I wrote. I wrote about how you deal with this and how I deal with it. And I got to my dojo, and I'd have to be driven there. You know, I couldn't wrap my own hands with you know the wraps.
Yeah.
So my sensei, same sensei, he's like, "I got you. You know, we're gonna fight through this thing." With the medication and with the help of many others, it takes a village. You know, and I couldn't even talk about it at first because I couldn't talk. And I'm like, how am I going to go play South America? Am I going to let my band down? You know, the first couple of rehearsals were rough. I was like, I saw myself from above playing. Yeah. My hands were working, you know. Yeah. Nobody else noticed. And Slash knew I told two of the people there I was going through this. And Slash has kind of been a safe person for me throughout this. I met him when I first moved to LA. I told him I had these panic attacks. He listened. He's like, "Okay, well, if it happens, we'll deal with it." And I had plenty around him. And he knows just to talk to me about anything but the panic attack.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And start talking about, hey, first Led Zeppelin record, you know, did you notice they went into whatever.
Yeah. How about the Mariners, huh?
How about
the classic Seattle one.
How about those Mariners? Yeah. So, but I got through that bout of depression. I'm still on a minute amount of this medication. I take it at night. It doesn't affect me in any way. I probably could go off of it. But I feel great. I'm not having panic attacks.
Yeah.
I'm not having depression. I'm 56. I hope to keep it going this way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you talk about that, looking down and watching yourself play. That's definitely that dissociative and like depersonalization aspect of anxiety and depression is something that I've struggled with a lot. But like grounding when it comes to that dissociation has been something that I've had to look into and get a lot of tools around. Did you find any grounding techniques that worked well for you?
Yes. And that's what I found when I went got into the martial arts. And it's a concentration meditation. Yeah. Which took me a while to understand and to get into. Yeah. at first, even me, I was struggling. I wanted what my sensei had, which was this calm. You could tell if you met him now, you would, the first thing you would recognize is he has something else. There's something else, and his mind and body and spirit are aligned.
Yeah.
To where anything can happen at any time, and he's prepared. It doesn't matter because he's prepared.
Yeah, which is absolutely the ultimate goal.
Ultimate goal.
If you could achieve that, I mean, yeah.
So I've been trying to get there. Just even if I get a semblance of what he has.
Sure. And I know that we've talked about this. You and my dad toured together in the early 90s before you were sober.
Yeah.
And then you bonded more when your daughter May was born, like 2 weeks after I was.
Yeah.
In the past, we've talked about times as well where you found that validation and solidarity in talking to my dad about mental health. What were some of the helpful conversations that you guys had about it?
We had so many similarities. And the biggest similarity we had was we had these mental issues, and some of the conversations was like, is it like being from big families? Like what is this about? But
sure.
I had told him about, this dojo go to, and I really found a way to deal with this. And your dad brought his boat over to my house. He's like, is it cool if I keep my boat here so I can ski this summer? Sorry, can you hear my dog? But
ours is the same way.
It's probably our conversations were no different than the conversation you and I are having right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how do you deal with this? Traveling so much. I'm always here if you need. That sort of thing. He had other stuff that I didn't know, and his was depression. And I remember having my depression attack and talking to him somewhere out there.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I had depression.
Yeah.
I know what it is now.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And there was a kind of a group. There was a few other people I won't name who have struggled with it. That when I was in my 30s and 40s, I'm like, come on, depression, just get out of the dumps, let's go running, and it's not that. It is not that.
Yeah, there's such a misconception around that it's, you have it in your personal power, just go outside and smile and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. It's chemical, like you said. But my meditation, I built myself this little a house, and I go down this trail to get to my house. And in my house, I kind of have everything I need to deal with whatever. I kind of just say, I have herbs in there. I have patience. I have strength. I have calm.
Yeah.
I have everything I need.
Beautiful.
I have, I've used it in my marriage. I've used it raising my kids. I've gone to my little place to put together a big ass toy set, okay, you can do this.
Yeah.
But not to take it lightly because it's saved my ass, so many times. And you won't find me getting angry. Like if some dude comes up on me and calls me a punk or something, you won't find me. That's not a flashpoint for me because I can go to my place in about 2 seconds and deal with that situation appropriately.
What do you tell your daughters, Grace and May, about mental health and addiction?
I've told them everything.
Yeah.
At 15, when each of them turned 15. You guys are going to drink. You're going to try drugs. I'm not a dad who lives in this fantasy, just don't do drugs. I know you're going to do it. And you might like something. And like me, I like something. You're going to chase that first high or that first drink. Because, you got half of me in you.
Yeah.
And where that's going to take you is it's going to take you to the ER at Northwest Hospital at 30 years of age with a busted, organ. Yeah. And it's not cool. So just, talk to me as you're going through this journey, and I'll be your consigliere, you know?
Yeah.
So I think both of them are fine when it comes to that.
Cool. And I'm sure having an example in you of someone who talks about it so openly can only be helpful. You know,
Right.
You're so open with them, but you're also, open to the public, which I think is a really special and amazing thing. And in your books and columns and interviews, you're a vocal advocate and activist. And it's super important for me to have people like you that are public figures in the series who are willing to be open and honest.
You know what's funny? My boat just floated away.
Oh my God. Wait, as we were saying that? Oh God. Oh, Duff.
Yeah, so I think I have to go.
Yes, understood. Yes.
Susan just came and wrote it down on a pad. The boat just floated away.
That's so funny. Thank you so much for being here, Duff. It means the world to me.
Lily, I'm very proud of you, and this is a great way for you to deal with this. I'm proud of you for putting yourself out there. Just by you doing this, I know you're going to be okay because you're dealing with it front on, and I didn't have the tools you have. So good on you, and I'm always here for you, and people can get a hold of me about this through 320 or Change Direction. I do a couple things through Propeller.
Perfect. Thank you, Duff.
Cool. All right.
Go get your boat.
I'm going to get my boat. Okay, you guys, I got to go.